You knew something was wrong before anything fell apart. It was not the loud kind of disaster that forces everyone to notice. It was quieter than that. You opened the same app again, answered the same message again, walked into the same habit again, and afterward your chest felt tight in a way you could not explain. The room was normal, the lights were normal, your phone was in your hand, but your heart was not resting. You tried to distract yourself with noise, food, scrolling, sleep, conversation, anything that could cover the feeling, but the feeling kept returning, like someone gently tapping on a locked door from the inside. Then Salah came, and instead of running toward it, you delayed it. Not because you stopped believing, not because you hated prayer, but because standing before Allah felt too honest. You knew that the prayer mat would make you face what you had been avoiding. You knew the moment your forehead touched the ground, the excuses would weaken. That heaviness was not random. That loss of peace after sin, that discomfort around what used to feel normal, that sudden guilt when nobody accused you, that ayah you heard at the exact moment your heart was trying to hide, all of it may be a mercy before a greater loss. Sometimes the warning from Allah does not arrive as thunder. Sometimes it arrives as a disturbed heart that can no longer enjoy what is harming it. Maybe you have lived the pattern clearly enough to recognize it now. You wake up with the intention to change, and by afternoon, the old pull returns. Someone sends a message that reopens a door you promised Allah you would close. A friend invites you somewhere you know will weaken you. A thought appears in your mind with perfect timing, dressed as harmless pleasure. For a few minutes, you argue with yourself. You say, "It is not that serious," but your body already knows it is. Your hand hesitates before replying. Your chest tightens before leaving the house. You remember a lecture clip you saw 2 days ago, then an ayah you heard in the car, then the advice of someone you dismissed because it touched the exact place you were protecting. These are not always coincidences to be dramatized, but they are not always meaningless either. Sometimes Allah surrounds a person with reminders from different directions because one reminder alone was ignored, and the sign is not there to make you panic. It is there to bring you back while return is still possible. If this part is making you think of a specific moment you have been avoiding, quietly mark that honesty by liking the video, not as a performance, but as a small witness that your heart still recognizes truth when it reaches you. Because the real question is not whether you saw the sign. The real question is why you kept negotiating with it after you knew. Still, spiritual maturity means you do not turn every discomfort into a prophecy and every difficult person into an enemy. Islam does not teach paranoia. Allah's guidance does not require you to become suspicious of everyone, terrified of ordinary sadness, or obsessed with decoding every inconvenience. Sometimes you feel heavy because you're exhausted. Sometimes your mind is overwhelmed and needs rest, therapy, support, or a healthier routine. Sometimes a person disagrees with you because they see something you do not because they are blocking your destiny. A warning from Allah will never require arrogance, cruelty, or delusion. It will call you toward humility, prayer, honesty, and better conduct. That is how you test what you are feeling. Does this discomfort push you to obey Allah, repair what you damaged, leave what is clearly haram, return rights to people, guard your tongue, and soften your heart? Or does it feed your ego, make you look down on others, and convince you that everyone who challenges you is spiritually blind? There is a huge difference between basira and suspicion. Basira makes you more careful with your soul. Suspicion makes you careless with other people's honor. A true warning does not make you dramatic. It makes you responsible. It does not need you to accuse the whole world. It only asks you to stop lying to yourself in the place where you already know the truth. One of the clearest signs is the way prayer begins to feel when a person is drifting. At first, salah is delayed by minutes, then by hours, then combined carelessly, then treated like an interruption to the day instead of the anchor of the day. The strange part is that the person may still believe prayer is important. They may defend Islam in conversation, share reminders online, respect religious people, and even feel emotional hearing Quran. But when the time comes to stand alone before Allah, they feel resistance. That resistance is worth listening to. Not obeying it, but listening to what it reveals. Maybe the heart feels ashamed. Maybe the nafs knows that prayer will weaken the sin it wants to keep. Maybe the person has been feeding the soul with so much distraction that stillness now feels unbearable. Returning does not require a theatrical transformation. It may begin with making wudu even when you feel unworthy, praying the missed prayer instead of drowning in regret, sitting for 2 minutes after salah without touching your phone and saying, Allah, I do not trust my own strength, so return me to you. Tawbah is not a speech you give once to impress yourself. It is a return you choose repeatedly, especially when your emotions are not cooperating. There are nights when the only sincere dua you can make is, Ya Allah, tired of myself. That dua may be more truthful than 100 polished sentences. Allah knows the heart that is crawling back. He knows the difference between someone playing with sin proudly and someone trapped, ashamed, resisting, falling, and still refusing to cut the rope between them and their Lord. Sometimes the warning comes through consequences that feel painful because they interrupt a plan you were emotionally invested in. The job does not work out. The conversation exposes what someone really wanted from you. A relationship you kept forcing becomes heavier each time you try to repair it. Money earned in a questionable way disappears faster than expected. A secret becomes exhausting to maintain. A door you begged Allah to open stays closed until, months later, you understand what it would have cost your deen, your dignity, or your family. At the time, it feels like rejection. Later, with a calmer heart, you notice the mercy hidden inside the refusal. This is where tawakkul becomes real, not as a sentence posted on a screen, but as discipline in the middle of uncertainty. You stop forcing what keeps making you disobey Allah. You stop calling every delay a failure. You stop chasing what requires you to become someone you would be ashamed to meet in sujood. Divine timing is not always about receiving what you wanted later. Sometimes it is about being saved from wanting it the same way. That is why sabr is not passive waiting. Sabr can look like deleting the message and not announcing it. It can look like returning money you had no right to keep. It can look like choosing the slower halal path when the faster one is praised by everyone around you. It can look like sleeping with tears in your eyes, but without betraying what Allah made clear to you. Consequences are not always doors slamming in anger. Sometimes they are guardrails. There are also people and desires that become tests because they know exactly where your weakness lives, not because they are monsters and not because you are better than them, but because your heart has a door that opens too easily in their presence. Around some people, your tongue becomes loose. Around others, your modesty weakens, your prayer becomes late, your standards become negotiable, your need for approval becomes louder than your fear of Allah. You leave them feeling entertained, but spiritually drained. You defend them because you love them, or because you fear loneliness, or because part of you enjoys the version of yourself that appears around them. But Allah may warn you by making that version feel unbearable. You notice that you no longer feel proud after certain conversations. You notice that your old triggers do not control you as quickly as before, but only when you stay away from the environment that fed them. You notice that your heart becomes calmer after you create distance, even if your emotions complain at first. This is not a call to cut people harshly or imagine yourself surrounded by enemies. It is a call to be honest about influence. Who makes obedience easier? Who makes sin feel normal? Who can you love from a distance because closeness keeps pulling you away from Allah? If you feel able, share one sentence in the comments answering this. What is one sign Allah used to make you realize a path, habit, or attachment was changing you in the wrong direction? Someone else may read it and find the courage to stop ignoring their own warning. To be spiritually chosen is not to be placed above people. It is to be held accountable for what Allah has allowed you to notice. Some people are protected by not getting what they want. Some are protected by losing the taste for a sin before the sin destroys them. Some are protected by shame. that pushes them back to Allah before arrogance seals the heart. If you have been given sensitivity to your own wrongdoing, do not turn that into pride. Treat it like an amanah, a responsibility. Allah is not calling you so you can look at others with contempt. He is calling you so you can be purified when no one applauds you. The hardest victories are often invisible. You do not send the message. You do not respond to the insult. You do not reopen the door. You do not explain your restraint to people who would not understand it. You sit in your room after everyone sleeps, not as a saint, but as someone who knows they nearly lost themselves and was pulled back by mercy. There is a strength that forms in that hidden place. It is not loud. It does not need witnesses. It shows later in the way you pause before speaking, in the way you protect your prayer, in the way you recover faster after being provoked, in the way you no longer confuse attention with love or opportunity with blessing. Hardship can make a person bitter, but when it is received with humility, it can also sharpen the soul. Allah may allow you to feel the weight of a warning, so you stop walking casually towards something that would have taken far more from you than you were ready to lose. So take the warning seriously, but do not take it hopelessly. The fact that your heart is still disturbed can be a mercy. The fact that an ayah still reaches you, that guilt still wakes you, that salah still calls you, even when you feel distant, that certain reminders keep finding you, that your chest tightens before you step into what you know is wrong. All of this means the door has not closed, but a warning ignored again and again can become easier to silence. That is the frightening part, not that Allah is waiting to destroy you, but that you may train yourself to stop hearing what was sent to save you. Make Tawbah before the feeling fades. Pray the next prayer on time, even if your focus is broken. Leave the thing you already know is pulling you away, even if your emotions need time to accept the loss. Ask Allah for a clean heart, not a perfect image. Ask Him to replace what harms you with what brings you nearer to Him in the way He knows best, and at the time He knows best. You do not need chaos to prove Allah is guiding you. You need honesty. You need restraint. You need one sincere step taken while the sign is still fresh. The reminder has reached you now. What happens after this is no longer only about what you felt. It is about what you choose.